In this short video, we're going to look at the work of David Tripp in 1993, and he was thinking about reflection and reflecting on the nature of teaching, in the sense that what we do when we reflect is to think about incidents, the kind of minutiae or what happens of our working lives, what Tripp calls the commonplace events that occur in the everyday life of a classroom. And he was speculating on what might make that more valuable and productive as an exercise. And what he proposes is that we begin to look below the surface of what happens and to ask why and what it means and what we should do about it. And he suggests that something important happens when we do this. He suggests that we elevate those mundane incidents into critical incidents. He gives the example in his own practice of a very minor incident, the class having been asked about whether they should be given a choice of teacher. They then moved on to a new topic when one of the students put up their hand and said, well, if a teacher wasn't very much liked, then he'd know, and he'd feel sad if no one wanted to come to his class, like. And Tripp, in response to that point from the student, said, "We finished that one ages ago. Where have you been since then?" Now, reflecting on it afterwards, he felt that this was entirely the wrong thing to say, and that he ought to have responded differently, and he ought to change his practice in the future. And this is where a model like Kolb would stop. Tripp asserts it's important to go further. And so he did this by asking why he had responded as he did. And he found on reflection that it was counter to his own values as a teacher to respond as he did. So he then asked what that meant about his practice, and he felt that it meant he was unconsciously mimicking the way in which he had been taught himself, rather than doing what he really believed to be the right thing. So he then asked what should be done about that problem, and felt that he needed to make a deep and abiding shift in his whole approach to teaching, becoming more conscious of his habits and the things that he was doing without questioning, and the sources of his own approaches. And so this was really a root and branch shift in practice, coming out of a tiny mundane incident in the classroom. Now, this is the power of critical incidents in Tripp's view. From those very minute experiences that we engage in the classroom, the common everyday practice that we carry out, can come really large, considerable, significant shifts, significant turning points in the life of the subject. So that what happens is a kind of metamorphosis from one kind of teacher into another. So that, in a nutshell, is Tripp's model of critical incident reflection. And my question for you, therefore, is whether you feel this is more valuable as a reflective approach than some of the other models that we might look at. For example, is this a more useful reflective model than Kolb?